is in the building. Facto.
Welcome to Ignorance is Contagious, a podcast about stories and the lessons you learn from them. I'm James LeGrand.
And I'm Abdul Majid.
In today's episode, we will be discussing the tell-all book that shook up the hip-hop industry. Released in 2005, Confessions of a Video Vixen was a memoir written by Karrine Steffans, which chronicles her sexual escapades and troubled romances in the bright lights of Hollywood. With us today to give us her perspective is lover of all things funny, Kristen J. Thank you for coming to the podcast once again.
Hey, thanks for having me as always.
So Karrine Steffans, what I thought was interesting about her and her story is that she started her first book, Confessions of a Video Vixen, in 2005. And then subsequently after that, she did 6 more books. All the books entailed some form of sex or sexual content in each book. And then she disappears around 2015 from social media and everything else. And then she comes back and she has a whole new name. She has a whole new persona. She refers to herself as a copywriter. She talks about home decor and things of that nature. So I wanted to discuss reinvention and the idea of reinvention and what does it mean to us? How does it work? And is it even possible? So with that being said, Krista J, take it away.
Like so many young girls, I grew up wanting to be famous. I used to watch television and dream about the Beverly Hills lifestyle seen in all my favorite films. I wanted to live below that Hollywood sign and drive down Sunset Boulevard and over Mulholland Drive in a Mercedes Benz while wearing a designer scarf and huge black sunglasses. I wanted to be known by the rich and famous and be seen lunching with the in crowd. I wanted to live where they lived and do what they do. I wanted to belong. I reached most of my goals, but I didn't do it the conventional way. I did it using the oldest trick in the book, sex. I'm not always proud of what I did, and there are things that I would do over if I could, but I made the best out of what I started with, an abusive mother and an absent father. I didn't write this book to excuse my past. I sat down to write this book because I think my story can serve as a warning to anyone aspiring to the kind of life I have led. And there are plenty of young people trying to do just that. Where young girls once aspired to be models and ballerinas, they now aspire to be hip-hop video girls, the next hot girl in the hottest artist video. Having lived that life, I can say it's not everything it's cracked up to be.
So for the purpose of this podcast, the definition of reinvention we're going to use is the action or process through which something is changed so much that it appears to be entirely new. So my first question is, would you reinvent yourself for money and fame? And if so, is it authentic?
I
James?
think the answer is simply put is sometimes it's authentic, right? It really comes down to the person and the circumstance. I look at someone like Robert Downey Jr., right? He completely reinvented himself and his career, and you see it now. He doesn't even talk about his older days with drug issues and things like that, as if it didn't even exist. So he went from incredible actor to having all these problems to disappearing for a while, and then he came back in a big way to built his way back up to become Iron Man. I mean, it's an amazing story of reinvention. Reinvention is possible. It's difficult and it takes time and it has to be done strategically, or it can be done, just by happenstance. Sometimes it just happens. I think with Karrine Steffans, she's reinvented herself several times, right? She reinvented herself from troubled youth who had a lot of trouble, a lot of problems, right? She came from a place of sexual abuse and emotional abuse, physical abuse, all those things. Reinvented herself to become a video vixen, right? She's a video girl, right? So she did what she did there. Reinvented herself from that to becoming the celebrities it girl, right? She dated all these celebrities, and that's she dated a lot of celebrities. A lot of these girls out here trying to do that are maybe they can date one or two. She dated a lot of them, and then again reinvented again after that. After she became an author, wrote this book, the first book, right? And then told everything, right? Put it not, it didn't even tell everything. Put a lot of it out there, though, right? Eventually, she kept going, right? There's a lot to the story, and she's trying to reinvent herself again, like you mentioned, Ab, trying to come back and do home decor and things like that, right? It's she has transitioned several times. I don't know if it's authentic, if it's for purposes of her career. I don't know if it's going to take hold. Is this one going to really outlast the image that she has crafted for us that we all hold about her? Right. Every time I hear her name, I think about the people that she name dropped. I think about the book itself. Can she successfully reinvent herself from that to the point where we forget what got her here? I don't know. I don't know the answer, and I think time will tell that tale.
I think the moniker Superhead had a lot to do with her dating habits and how many celebrities she got. If you're going by the moniker Superhead, you know, the only thing different is like fucking lips and lung. If she called herself lips and lung. But
It's
you
quite
didn't
a
answer the
resume,
first
Adam.
question. First
What's the
question
first question?
was, would you reinvent yourself for money or fame?
I wouldn't reinvent myself for money or fame, but I have reinvented myself many times for my own reasons. So coming from being an insecure kid growing up to figuring out that I actually did have, a brain that worked in between my ears and I could put it to use,
She had a
to
brain that
becoming.
worked too, by the way, James. She had a brain that worked. Crush the pepper, crush the pepper, crush the pepper.
That's it. But I had to, for me personally, grow. I had to grow, right? From insecurity to discovering my intelligence to discovering my empathy to figuring out what I wanted to do with my life and starting to do it, chase my dreams, um, to figuring out what I wanted out of life, and had every stage I had to become something more than I was in the previous stage, right? So yeah, as you know, Ab, I read a ton. Um, I watch podcasts and listen to podcasts, watch a lot of videos. I take a lot of online courses. I'm always in a state of reinvention, always. And it's always the reinvention's purposeful. I just don't always know where it's going. As long as it's in a better direction, as long as I can say today I'm a better James than I was yesterday, in my mind, I'm in the right direction. So would I do it for money and fame? No, that's for me, that's not my highest value. My highest value is to evolve. So for someone else whose highest value is money and fame, yeah, they would purposely reinvent themselves in such a way that they can sell more of whatever they're selling, be seen more by the people that want to see them, or get put on to the projects that interest them the most. So I think it comes down to what's your value and what's your highest value. My highest value is not money and fame, and I don't, and that's not me saying that money's not important. Money's very important, of course, but money and fame has no use for me. I'm not trying to be famous. Money's necessary. Got to have it, but not my highest value either. So if her highest value is money and she's reinventing herself for that purpose, for her that would be authentic because that meets the value that means something to her.
Kristen, same question. If you reinvent yourself, can it be authentic? And would you reinvent yourself for money or fame? And remember, hold up, with the definition we're using today, it's the action or process through which something has changed so much that it appears entirely new.
First, first of all, let me just go back for a hot second, James. When you hit that a lot in there, that sounded real judgy. I'm surprised at you, James. He said a lot. All right, so let me go back to the questions. I know that you say that's the definition for today,
For
but
today, for this podcast.
for
And
me, it's hard for me to look at it like that though, because well, we can get this
color
part
within
out.
the lines. Color within the lines. In the
No,
lines. The
heck your
definition we're using today is through the action or
that's not
process of something
reinventing
so
though.
much
That's not
it
reinventing.
appears entirely new is the key word, entirely new.
I don't think what Karrine did was reinvent herself, even going by your definitions. To me, a telephone with the cord and the little coily cable and all that other good stuff versus a cell phone, that's a reinvention. To me, a reinvention is an improved or a different version of the same type of thing. Robert Downey Jr. was a great example because he did reinvent himself. He continued in the same field. He came back stronger, sober, more professional, and he handled his business. Madonna, as old as she is, she continues to reinvent herself because she stays in the same genre. She's still doing the same thing. Karrine to me is swiping. She shook the Etch-a-Sketch and
Yeah.
she's trying to do a whole new thing. So I saw her whole interior design and her peace and calm and all that other stuff that's on Instagram. That's not Superhead, but I think it can be genuine and I think it can be authentic because I think everyone has multi-layers. You know, we've got different facets to us. Why can't a hoe be a great interior designer? I say hoe lovingly, but why can't she?
I got a follow-up question for that, by the way. So keep going.
Well, I mean, she can rock the mic
Mhm.
and design
Yeah, man, listen. I've
design a
seen the
living
film.
room.
I've seen the films.
Why?
She did a porn. She did a porn. Like, it's not like it ain't out there.
All right, yeah, so it's out there, so that means you have to watch it. You're like, I saw the film.
I mean, listen, if it's out there for public consumption, and she's publicly consuming a lot of shit,
Everybody just calm down.
why
Everybody,
not watch it on film?
don't try.
She can get this. Anyway, keep going. I'm
What you
sorry.
say,
Keep going,
James?
Chris.
A lot.
I caught that. I caught that.
Forgive me if it sounded judgy. That's not my intent.
It was such a quick second too. That I was like, oh wait, is that James? But I think that it can be genuine. I think it can be authentic. And for me, hell yeah, I would do whatever, reinvent myself for money and fame. I don't necessarily need fame either, but I'll take it. Getting in the
You
club for
would?
free, getting free merchandise and products and perks for free. Heck yeah. Sign me up.
Okay. I'm gonna circle back to that. I'm gonna circle back to that because there's another question I have in another chapter. But so my follow-up question is that since you brought up the whole thing, there is a Instagram and reality show woman named Drea Michelle. She became infamous maybe like last year that said after I think 10 years, you can delete your whole face.
Okay, so she
People,
said that.
no, my question is, do you believe that to be true?
I think it depends on the individual, how popular it was, how detailed it was, how infamous it was. I mean, somewhere some senior citizens sitting around gossiping about their old friends from high school. Like, Gladys wasn't nothing but a hoe. She's still a hoe. Some things never go away.
Man, listen, can I tell you something real quick? So there's a section around here. I'm not gonna say where I live, but I live in Florida, and there's like maybe a couple miles away an old folks community. They all drive around in
golf
these go
carts.
karts, these golf
With
carts, right?
symbols on
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, no. What they do is that they have loofahs. Those are squishy loofahs,
The
and
symbols,
they have different colors on them,
and
and
it
they tie it
represents
to the cart, and it represents. So
what
if
they're
you
willing to do.
yes,
James, what's a symbol?
That's a
I
symbol.
know. It's a colored loofah. That represents.
well, it could have been anything. I'm just telling you that these old
Yeah.
people are out here getting freaky and they're telling you what they're interested in, but you have to know what each loofah means. And
You have
there's a
to know the
whole
symbol.
underground world of sexcapade going on in this
You
loofah
know
old
too,
folk.
don't you? Don't you?
I don't. I was told when I went to the gym. Anyway, I ain't gonna tell you how I found out, but
Because you know.
I found out and I was like, whoa, they're getting it in like that? And I'm like, yeah. And then the person I
It's
was
pretty
talking,
famous, yeah.
yes, the person I was talking to was a nurse. And she was telling me the rise of STDs within that community.
Right.
Mhm.
And then I was like, what? I was like, what are you talking about? And then she went on to tell me the whole story about this group of people in loofahs and what
Senior
happened.
hoeing.
Senior hoeing,
Yeah.
octogenarian hoeing,
I
octa
also do
hoeing.
believe though. I also do believe though that a lot of things are becoming just so common. Hoe is not like what it used to be. It's so much out there and in your face that there's certain things that we're just kind of low key desensitized to. So
Before I go
to
to
your
James,
point on
is that
that,
a good? Hold
well,
on, before I go to you, James,
yeah.
is that a good thing or a bad thing? The fact that it's so commonplace and it's so ubiquitous, does that make it a good thing or a bad thing in your opinion?
in my opinion, I think it just makes it a thing. Sex is life and sex is natural. It's all those little extra trimmings and extranistic accessories that people throw onto it. For example, sexy red. She's a grown woman. There's nothing wrong with her having sex. There's nothing wrong with her doing whatever she wants to, how she wants to, with whom she wants to. But when you singing, my blank is pink, my, blank is brown, I think that kind of takes it in another direction. So, and even then, technically, that's just accurate information put on, a record, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to know that though. That I think that's where my line is drawn. I don't want to know what color your stuff is, sexy red. I really don't. I don't. I think that keep that with whoever you're getting down with. But that's my personal prudent opinion.
Okay. James, can you delete your whole face?
I don't know if you really have a hoe face, and here's what I mean by that, right? So I think when people always, even growing up, when people talk about hoes and things like that, for me it was always, are you owning your sexual independence, right? And I think, we as men have the luxury of being able to do whatever we want and not being called names. Women doing the very same thing get labeled a hoe, right? So for me, that was always concerning, that the same activity, was judged differently based on gender, right? And I never liked that. That was never something I subscribed to. So my first question is there really a hoe face, right? If there is, then it applies to men and women. So then we answer the question, can you delete your hoe face? No, I don't think you delete it, but is it a part of what made you who you are today, right? Everything that has come before has helped build us into who we are. It has given us the platforms by which we make our decisions that lead us to this moment, right? Everyone that's listening to this, all of us here, we're here at this moment because of every second of our past, all of it. So even if you could delete it, I don't think you should, because it's a part of who you are. It's a part of what got you here. You may decide, I'm no longer going to invest energy in those activities the way I used to. I'm going to invest energy in a different way. But that's also a decision that is made based on your interpretation of your past and where you want to go in your future. So that's that. I said a lot of words. Again, I don't think you can delete it. I don't know that it's properly labeled as hoe face. And if it is, then we have to apply it to both men and women. And again, whatever you did in your past has helped you get to this moment. So it's all valuable, all of it.
Can I
I
just
think,
jump in?
hold on, yes, you can. Go ahead, Kristen, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I definitely just want to put it out there that I am one of the females. There is a small percentage of us that definitely judge men on their activities. I have heard men make comments like, oh, I would thinking it would be alluring, saying something like, I would do you without a condom. Immediate turn off for me. Like, it's like, you're nasty. So there are a few of us out here who look at and judge men's actions, and I call them dirty D's. There's one out there in Hollywood that has a lot of children, and that's nasty to me. I judge. I'm sorry.
Well, I think I think double standards exist. I don't think that men and women can judge each other in certain instances by the same standards. The same way if a guy punches me and I punch him out of shoes, it's completely fine. But if a woman hits me, I gotta walk away. And everybody knows that to be fair dealing. I think the things that men value and the things that women value with regards to the opposite sex in terms of how it affects me in the long term. I don't know if you can delete your whole phase for the simple fact that as a man who has to, this is going to sound really misogynistic, but whatever. As a man who has to present my woman and my family to the world as my representation, her bodies count. The same way, if a woman tries to represent me to the world and I'm just some disheveled homeless guy who's on heroin or whatever it is, that's a reflection on her and her judgment, her discernment. So I do think sometimes in cases like that, the bodies do count and may not, and even though it may not count the same way a man's bodies would count, there are things that are on my side that count more than wouldn't matter on her side. So that's kind of how I look at it with
I
regards
hear
to
what
that.
you're saying, but right now the subject is sex. You threw something else in the mix.
When I said bodies,
But you went and you used yourself as an example of being a homeless bum and what's important to women.
First
Right
of
now,
all, let's rewind this. I
now
didn't view
we're
myself
talking
as an
sex.
example
So
as being a
let's
homeless nothing. I didn't say Abdul nothing homeless bum. I said an
you implied
example
it was
as
you. You implied it was you. Take your life
that's
together. You
right.
better.
I
Okay, do
said
better.
what I had said was I was referring to the us men as the
I
universal,
understood.
not
I
like the
understood what you
individual.
was understood what you were saying. You gave a different example though to show that what's of importance to each side.
Yes.
But for the woman, the man's value, like him having his own place, being homeless, being a
Yeah,
bum,
yeah.
I understand that. But right now, the conversation is sex.
Yes. And I think that bodies on the man don't count as much as body on the women in the general standards.
All right. So, what's your opinion?
I just told you what it was. I think that they're distinct difference. I personally would not, for the first part of the story, I would not reinvent myself for money or fame. I don't think if you reinvent yourself, it can be authentic for the simple fact that something that James says, you're a totality of who you are. And you're always going to bring whatever that is with you to whatever space you have, even if it's in a subconscious level, a part of you is still there. And our definition is said entirely new. That was why I was going down that road.
Let me ask you this question. Are you mindful of your bodies in consideration for the woman that you choose to be with? Like, are you mindful of all of your actions, all the bodies you drop, all the bodies you drop?
Yes, but I say yes, but I don't think that that's necessarily the same. I don't think they're equal. I don't think they're one for one.
Well, you're talking
In
about the general population and
the
like
general population, yeah, I'm talking about
stereotypes and
general
all that
population,
other
yeah,
stuff. Yeah, but I'm
yeah.
talking about you.
Yes, I am mindful of my body count, and I'm also mindful of how my body count reflects other people and how it reflects the person whoever you're dating. Yes, I do. I'm very mindful of that.
Because
I
How would
might
it
it
not
reflect to other people if people don't know it? So
because listen, I've been in situations. I've been around people where I've been at the club and seen some other people, and my boy was like, "Oh, he's talking to such and such," and then his business comes out because another girl saw him with the other person, or he slept with her last week, or like people are pay some stuff that people are paying attention to you when you're out and about and in these so small circles of entertainment industry and club world, and like your reputation will catch up. And a lot of guys wear it on their sleeve, like they call each other, Eskimo brothers. That's the thing.
what does
The
that
same
mean?
an Eskimo brother is two guys who have slept with the same girls. That's an Eskimo brother. If myself and partner B slept with the same girl, we're Eskimo brothers.
How'd they come up with that one? What's the connection to Eskimos for that title?
Eskimos igloo, I guess. Going, I don't know. I don't know where it comes from. I just know that's the what it's referred to as an Eskimo brother.
Okay, so
if two if two women slept with the same guy, are they Eskimo sisters?
No, see, that's like one of those things I've never heard referred to as Eskimo sisters. It
now
might be something else. There might be some word that they use that I don't know of. I'm just talking about the people I've come around. The phrase I've heard it was, "Oh yeah, him and him are Eskimo brothers," or "Him and some celebrity are Eskimo brothers." So I'm like, and I was like, "What does that mean?" And then I was informed. So
Now it sounded like you slid into another category of what people know and how information comes out, but that doesn't take away from the one who is a global hoe. A man can be sleeping with some of everybody, some of everywhere, but keeping it distanced enough where
I,
the paths are not going to cross.
I don't think Drake is looked at the same way as Karrine Steffans, and everybody knows that Drake has a body count. Matter of fact, he talks about his body count in his songs.
Looked at it by me that way because
By you, I'm talking not to you. I'm talking to the general public.
I'm the
And the
general
general,
public. I am the general public.
And there's a difference, right? If we're talking about a celebrity, that is a whole different thing because all their businesses everywhere. People are watching. They got professional photographers, paparazzi, following them around to figure out what they're doing with the express purpose of exploiting them. But if you're talking about the accountant, male or female, who is out dating and living their life and doing their thing, and if they're smart about it and they move in silence, no one knows what they're doing. They have a body count, male or female, and when they meet the one, whoever that is, and they get into that relationship, that person that they're with has no idea what their body count is. But
But
they
in this,
know that they know who that person is today, and that's the person they choose to be with, right?
but in
And
this
that
particular
person,
instance,
mhm,
when I said Drake, I said him
yeah,
specifically because he talks about his body counts. He names the women in
yeah,
the song the same way
mhm,
Karrine named him in her book.
yeah,
So yeah, Joe Schmo, accountant, plumber, whatever, who got his names in the
mhm,
rafters because he got so many, you know, he got his numbers on the board. I
mhm.
know no one's going to know who or what he did unless he explicitly says, "Hey, I
Unless
did
he
A,
says
B,
it,
and C." Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway,
So I
Kristen.
only say that, but really quick, I only
Mm-hmm.
make that point to say, when we talk about how we represent ourselves to other people, or how we're represented by the person that we're with, to our parents and things like that, if no one knows that history, right, then what you're representing is who that person is today. I know a person, female, who when she was a hellion when she was growing up. I mean, she's got a very large body count, right? And she's not just that the
Oh,
body count we're talking, not just about a lot, right? That, no, but not just sex. She used to fight. She did all kind of things, right? But because of her past, when she met her man, who is an absolute angel, this guy he's one of the sweetest guys you'll ever meet. They've been together a long time now. She completely switched and went into religion because she didn't want to live that life anymore. She went right into religion, became and reinvented herself, became this whole new person. She's got the Bible memorized front to back. Her children are amazing, right? They're just everything that she did was to make sure that her family didn't have to meet the person that she was before. She wanted them to know who she was now, and she made sure that she raised her kids in that light. And she has stayed consistent for many more years than she was a hellion doing the things that she used to do. So she successfully reinvented herself. Now, her husband does know her past, her husband does know it, right? But when he's introducing his wife to people, it's with pride because of who she is today, not because of who she was before they met.
Kristen, look at Jam knowing these religious hoes.
I never caught that. He's like, oh, she was a hellion.
She was a hellion back in the day, but she went to church and
Hey,
cleaned it up.
she cleaned it up and then went to church in her case.
Did she wipe the corners of her mouth after she cleaned it up?
This
Anyway,
guy.
Kristen,
Only you, man.
October 2001, I was lying on the hard, cold floor in the bathroom of the famous Chinese bistro, Mr. Chow in Beverly Hills. It was one of the most upscale, renowned restaurants in the world, yet I was at the lowest point in my life, with my head next to the toilet. I was alone, in debt, with no friends and no hope. It had been a long, hard trip that led to this fall. It was a wild roller coaster ride, which included some of the hottest names in hip hop and Hollywood. For 2 years, I wrote it out. I was in the middle of it all, dining with P. Diddy, partying with Van Diesel, going one on one with Shaquille O'Neal. I have money, 3 cars, a condo in a prestigious neighborhood, a nanny for my son. I had starred in some of the hottest music videos with Jay-Z, LL Cool J, Ja Rule, and Ludacris. I had even co-starred in a blockbuster film, A Man Apart, opposite Van Diesel. But here I lay on the cold bathroom floor, hugging the toilet's frigid porcelain, completely hopeless. I was broke, homeless, and probably dying. 1 year earlier, no one could have told me that my life would turn out that way. I was invited to a function one Friday night in October 2000 at the Sky Bar, located on Sunset Strip. I reluctantly met an acquaintance there and quickly began to mingle in order to make the best out of what was promised to be a boring evening. The crowd was very stuffy, and I found myself yawning in between conversations with a concert pianist and a score composer. After about an hour of walking around, sampling the vast array of mediocre hors d'oeuvres and oversized apple martinis, I was ready to go. As I searched for the acquaintance who had brought me to this event, he came up behind me, grabbed my arm, and pulled me toward the pool. I want you to meet someone, he said. Gary, this is Yazette. Yazette, this is Gary.
So she goes on in that chapter to say that Yazette was a name that she gave herself when she was 16, and she would go by that moniker every once in a while. So my first question is, Jay-Z has a song on the Black Album called Public Service Announcement. And in the lyrics of the song, he says, and you can try to change, but that's just the top layer. Man, you are who you are before you got here. Do you believe that to be true? Does your whoever you were go with you wherever you go?
Yeah, I think who you are is who you are. I think you have ebbs and flows and which dynamic of yourself stands out more or less. But if she had created this name for herself, Yazette, a long time ago,
Mm-hmm.
she's been doing this. And you all say reinventing, but she's been switching it up. She had this whole other name then, and now she's got yet another name. So is it reinventing or is it just a switcheroo?
Okay, so Malcolm X did the same thing.
No,
He,
Malcolm completely transitioned.
no, when he went from Malcolm Little to
Yes,
Red,
yes.
that's a reinvention. And then he goes to jail, and then he becomes Malcolm X, or
Malcolm X,
after he gets out of jail, that's a reinvention. And then when he
Malcolm
becomes
X
El
was,
Haj, let me finish. And then when he becomes El Haj Sharif
yell at
Shabazz,
me. You about to get reinvented. This I ain't
I'm gonna
Gazette.
reinvent your life.
What?
yeah.
Let me finish. Go ahead.
But he did it 4 different times. Even when he was young, when he was in his 20s, when he was in his 30s, he reinvented himself, and even to the day he died, it was another change.
Well,
That's
You know
it.
remember,
what?
All those. I don't see the difference between the two.
That's a big difference, though. I agree with Kristen on this, right? What Malcolm X did was truly reinvent. It wasn't like a name change. He changed who he was,
yes,
in and out, all the way, bones to skin. He changed everything about who he was,
how it
right?
looks, how
Where
mhm.
yeah, versus like Beyonce, right? She's got her alter ego, Sasha Fierce, right?
Mhm.
So she's about to go on stage, she becomes Sasha Fierce. She gets off stage, she's back to Beyonce, right? It sounds like that's more of what Karrine Steffans has done. Is every now and then she uses her alter ego, but she doesn't truly transform. She
Right.
borrows a personality for a short period of time.
Another
That's not
aspect
quite the
of
same.
herself, another
Yeah.
aspect of her current existing self that may lay low for a minute, but then surfaces. Malcolm sounds like he was, like you said, a completely 180.
Yeah.
What's your excuse, Abdul?
I know too many niggas on camera with smart mouths. My excuse. So let me ask
Right.
you this.
So everybody, Abdul is supposed to be detoxing from using the N-word. So let's all publicly keep count of his slippage.
By the by by the end of this podcast, I will have reinvented myself to someone who don't use the N-word anymore. But until then, nigga.
So
So
disrespectful. So disrespectful.
okay, so let me ask you. So my second question is this:
Kind of like a slave owner.
how do you get people, family, friends, etc., to buy into your reinvention? How do you get them to buy into it? Because it tends people who know you for a very long time always want to revert back to the person that they know you. So how do you get people to buy into your reinvention?
Sometimes you can't, right? I mean, now we're talking about how your perceptions of other people. The people who've been most successful at reinvention had to step away for a while, let like a part of, let a bunch of people kind of forget them for a bit, right? Let some new people come in, and then they show back up anew. But there's always people who remember who they were before, right? Always. So sometimes you can do it in the minds of some people, but you may not be able to completely do it. Can you do it for enough people that overall your reinvention story takes hold, right? That's really the question. So I don't know that you can completely do it in a
Kristen?
way that people still see people. I am so different than the way our family sees us. For those who don't know, Abdul and I are brothers, right? Our family sees me a certain way. I'm not that person. I haven't been that person in decades, but they will always see me that way. I just had to allow for that and just go, okay, that's just how they see me. But I know that I am light years away different as a person than the way people who've known me their whole lives think I am. So so reinvention for me it's been successful from my perspective. I've successfully reinvented myself multiple times. But does everyone see it? Not always. And is that a problem? Not always. I just okay, that's how you see me, that's fine. But this is who I am and this is how I'm moving.
Wow.
right? You want to see me the way I used to be, that's fine, because it's not having any bearing on where I'm going. So,
Mhm.
so I think sometimes you can, sometimes you can't.
Kristen?
I've never reinvented myself, so I wouldn't know what to say, how to get other people to buy into that. I've spent my life just trying to get to know my damn self and figure out who the hell I am and try to be as true and authentic to me. And if there have been changes within that process or journey, I don't think I care what other people thought. If they bought into it, fine. If they didn't, fine. Actually, let me just pause for a second though. My son now is probably my biggest challenge because there are times where he's like, Mom, you always X, Y, and Z. So I'm like, well, Ari, you said that bothered you. I tried to adjust that. I need you to recognize when I do make that adjustment. But I think he still holds on to something that maybe I've done in the past that irked him to no end. And he's like, You're like this. And I'm like, I did that, but I've adjusted that. Recognize, please. So all I can do is just keep trying to be a better person. And that is draining. Oh my God, I don't want to be wearing my out.
But you know what though, you hit on a concept though of consistency, right? Consistency has to be an ingredient of if you're trying if it's important to you as a person that other people see how you've been reinvented, then consistency has to be a key ingredient in that. You have to be able to consistently demonstrate you're different so that people eventually just wake up one day and go, okay, you're now this new person, right? They because they've seen it consistently over time. So maybe that's a part of selling it is you got to be it all the time.
Well, now you're talking about being consistent for the sake of other people. That right there sounded like a part-time job. I can only keep up with what I keep up for myself. You know what I mean? Like I
Mhm.
try to be authentic and consistent for myself. I know
Yeah.
when I was growing up, this is a little bit of a sidebar. I know when I was growing up, I would hear my mother with the switch code voice on the phone. She became proper, but it, hung up the phone. Shut up, y'all go to bed. Y'all get on my nerves. People on the phone didn't hear that. They heard
Real.
professional Gwen. I didn't want to work that hard. So my focus was let me figure out who I am and find a middle
Mhm.
ground that can be represented in any location at any time under any circumstances, so I don't have to worry about trying to go back and switch and be proper and not be proper. And I felt like if this is something that I can't say in everywhere, maybe I shouldn't say it anywhere. So
I'm with you on that.
that's who I try to be. So I can't worry
Yeah.
about what other people think because everybody's got the answer to
Mhm.
who and how you should be. And I judge too. I'm the same way with other people. So there's that.
And to your point, if you know 1,000 people, there's 1,000 different opinions on who you are and 1,000 different reputations there,
10,000
right?
different opinions.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
let me
so
let me build off of that. Let me build off of that because that was part of my next question. So if 1,000 different people know who a thousand know you 1,000 different ways,
mhm.
and you're trying to reinvent yourself, at what point or is there a line that you let those people go? Is the reinvention so much that you can say, you know what, I'm trying to be this person, you ain't rocking with it, so you and you hit the door, or like how do you move past that, especially if it's someone close to you, family, friends, something like that.
Let's start with Karrine Steffans, right? She's reinventing herself. She's trying to, right? She's coming out new, right? This new persona, new interests, and that's what she's pushing, 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 pushing. The media is a part of this, right? If the media catches the story and helps her sell her story, her new story, she's going to have a better chance of that sticking as her new persona, especially for those who don't know her, right? We had since 2005 we've had people born, raised, they're now young adults, right? Who never heard of her, right? Who are now coming to see her for the first time. Their first exposure to her is this new person, right? They don't
Entirely
know her
different.
past.
Right. Mhm.
Right. And then there's those who maybe had a light opinion of her, who kind of, casually heard her, heard her name maybe somewhere at some point, who are not involved in hip hop world. They see this persona. Now we have Instagram. We didn't have that before. Now they see her on Instagram. They're like, oh, she seems nice. Let me follow her. Right. But then we have us that have these longer memories that grew up with hip hop, that kind of grew up in this community. We know who she was. We know what she's done. She disappeared for a bit. And we might have been like, hey, where'd she go? Don't know what's going on. Now we see her. We're like, oh, that's what she's doing? Okay. And then you have a choice to make. Am I going to listen to her and go with this and let myself buy into the persona she's selling today, or that she actually is? I don't know if she's really selling it or if that's her new authentic self. But either way, I have a choice to make as a person watching her, right, and seeing her. So I think for Karrine Steffans, famous celebrity, pseudo celebrity, I don't know what we want to call her. Can she be successful in that? Probably. Like I said, Robert Downey Jr. was able to rehabilitate his perspective, his perception, the perception that he had in people's minds successfully, and he did it in a huge way, right? Now, for us everyday people, it depends, right? I mean, I'm constantly moving. I'm constantly improving. I'm constantly changing who I am and how I'm moving, how I'm doing things, right? That's just my thing, right? My purpose in life is to evolve. So I'm constantly evolving, right? But I'm probably moving at a speed that people can't catch up. So by the time people catch up to where I am today, I'm probably going to be 10 more iterations away from here. And it'll just continue that, people will always see me from what I used to be. They'll never see me where I actually am today. But I recognize that I'm extreme in that. I recognize that. Go ahead. What are you gonna say?
But you're talking about evolving. I'm talking about reinvention. You're talking
Same
about
thing. Same thing.
you think evolving and reinvention are the exact same thing.
Not the exact same thing, the way you're saying it. What I'm saying is, in order to evolve, I have to reinvent. So it is, they are in the same realm without question.
Hmm.
I think you're thinking, tell me, well, I don't want to speak for you, but if you're thinking about, I used to be A and now I'm Z, and that's a reinvention because it's so radically different versus I used to be A and now I'm B, a much smaller reinvention, close to what I used to be, but different enough, at least for me. I consider that a reinvention as well, just not as radical a reinvention as I used to be a video vixen and now I'm selling housewares. Right. So I recognize where you're going, that there is a scale, there's a radicalness, there's another, I don't know what the right word is, but there's an extremism that kind of is probably in this conversation as well. Right. Is
Well,
you're probably thinking it's not as much of a reinvention to go from A to B as it is to go from A to Z, which is kind of what she's doing.
so for the record, the definition was to appear entirely new. I don't think evolving from point A to point B is entirely new. I think for
But
the sake of this
well,
conversation,
appear.
I was
No,
saying,
let's go to your definition though. Appear
okay,
entirely new. For someone else, they may see you as, wow, you really changed when you went from A to B, right? Because for them, that was a value that they could clue in on. It's easier to see that change when you go from A to Z. I went from, shaking my butt in the video to now I'm wearing an apron and selling, cookware, right?
with a
That's
completely
a
different name,
significantly, yeah,
with a
that's a
completely
completely
different
different
name.
thing. But I would still argue that they're both a form of reinvention. They're just different extremes of event and reinvention.
Kristen,
So James, you're
say,
saying you feel like evolution is reinvention?
Yeah, in my case, it absolutely is. I'm not going to go into details on it, but yes.
I don't want to know about your pimp history in this episode.
Look, pimping ain't easy. That's all I gotta say.
Going out here for a pimp. Cadillac rent money spent.
Hey, pimp with a degree. That's all I gotta say. So, no, no.
Yes, Abdul.
But
so
good at
same question to you. For those who wouldn't accept your reinvention, is there a line where you cut them off?
The line where they wouldn't accept it. That's good enough for me. I can't. It's
yeah.
too. I wouldn't worry about it. I can't worry about it. I can't. And there's always going to be somebody that is always self-included. I'm on the other side of that spectrum too, where I've seen people who now are something different, and I'm like, oh, and I get to make a choice. Do I rock with this new person, or do I
Mhm.
hold on to my memory of who they used to be and walk away? So I think people will fall off. naturally.
Or both, Kristen. You can do both. You can still remember who they used to be and accept who they are today. Like I
Oh,
said,
like Abdul. I remember who he was, and I still accept him.
I moved far, far, far away from this nigga.
He called himself trying to reinvent himself,
I'm trying to
to
reinvent
another
myself.
state. It's like,
And
no,
it's like
that's still Slappy Jenkins.
it's like it's like the Godfather. Try to keep pulling me. They pull me back.
There's
So
always somebody that's like, oh, you knew now, huh? I remember
Yeah.
when.
there you go.
do you
Right?
think that the Black community, and this is just a broad question that I just thought of right now because of what you just said. Do you think the Black community is hesitant of reinvention than any other group? Because I'm always see, oh, you think you brand new, oh, you like what you just mentioned is something I've heard across the board, every family, every school, every situation. I'm not specifically talking about white people because I don't know the white affairs. I'm talking about Black people because that's my surroundings. So, do you think Black people are hesitant to accept reinvention? And if so, why?
I don't even think I don't I don't think hesitation is in there. I don't think Black people accept it. They're like, no, I know who you are. Don't even get new on me. Like they don't. So I think that might now sliding into the authenticity of it. If it's authentic, I think that some people will not have a choice but to accept it. But nah, Black people are like, wait, what? Nah.
How many times have I heard, "Oh, you think you better than me? Or you think you this or that?" Right? And not just me, right? And this kind of go not just the Black community. I think all communities have that thing where someone shows up different. It could be for whatever reason they made money in a new job, went to college, something. They show back up. Oh, you think you're better than us now, right? Because now you're different. You've done something that you can. It's a difference you can see, and then you hear those words, oh, you think you're better than me now. And some people choose to, steer away from that and say, no, no, I'm not better. I'm right there with you. And they kind of they hide back into who they were. And then other people own it and go, no, I don't think I'm better than you, but this is who I am right now. And I'm going to move forward. And you can rock with me or you don't have to. So
I would answer yes. I think I'm significantly better than you in multiple ways. And then I give off the list. One, I have a nicer set of teeth than you. Two, I'm actually man pretty. Three. Anyway, so
That actually
okay.
doesn't sound like a joke. That sounds like something you really said.
It's not too far off. It's not too far off from something I've said to somebody. I've enumerated the ways that I'm better than another human being to their face. Yes, I've absolutely done that.
I remember you saying "man pretty" back when you were a teenager.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
two words that matter. I'm man and
yourself
I'm
back
pretty.
then.
Yep.
Even pretty.
Hey, listen. And I reinvented myself to be adult pretty. I'm male pretty now. To be gender specific. That was funny actually. Kristen.
Oh, you ready?
Yeah. On to this is the last one.
This is
And
this is
then I have a final question. Let's say broad question, and then we'll get to the lessons.
this is good. This part is really good, and it's interesting because it speaks volumes. I'm sorry, I just had to share that bit.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right.
I hate my mother. Those are strong words that are forbidden and shunned by God, and I struggle with this emotion every day of my life. But it's how I feel. As a child, while I would see other children long for their mothers, cling to their mothers, cry for their mothers, I was glad when my mother was away. I hated to be near mine. I hated to hear her voice and would feel nauseous, anticipating her return from work. I cringed when she was in the same room with me, and I looked forward to bedtime because that meant, at least for the day, my time with her was over. I was fully aware of these feelings as early as 3 years old. It seems almost unnatural for a child to despise the woman who gave him or her life, but my life was different, and I knew I wasn't like other children. My mother was beautiful. She is a one-woman melting pot of Puerto Rican, Jamaican, and Danish heritage. I remember her skin being slightly tanned and her hair thick and wavy. She walked with a switch and a sway, and everywhere she went, men followed. She bathed herself in perfume and wore tight fitting clothes. She adorned herself with 24-karat gold, and she was never without a man, somebody's man. But even with all of her beauty and charm, there was another side to Josephine. She was a very unhappy woman who didn't have any female friends. She based her whole existence on the ability to get a man. And she always seemed unhappy because one of those men who she so desperately needed in her life had done her wrong. There was a revolving door of men when I was growing up. Some of them even came back for seconds and thirds, but none of them ever stayed. I knew she loved my father and wanted to be with him, but he too didn't stay. His time with her seemed to be just that, time, and time makes things change. I witnessed my mother running around town aimlessly. I would hear the women around town talk about her. It usually followed a complimentary comment about me. Karrine, she's so smart. She's the only one to score 100 on her test last week. But that mother of hers, I heard she was seen with so and so's husband.
So the question is, and it goes back to I guess, the beginning of this conversation. There's two parts to the question. One, can you reinvent yourself? Because it seems like to me she just mimicked what she saw. And is that technically is that even an invention if you're just mimicking what you saw? I guess. Well, can you reinvent yourself? And the second question is, what is the cost of reinventing yourself? What does it cost a person to have to reinvent themselves? James?
I'll start with the second one first. Death is the answer. The person you were has to die to make room for the person you're becoming or that you have become.
Wow.
So it is that real. Like if we're talking about authentic reinvention, who you were has to die. That doesn't mean it never lived. You can't ignore who you were, right? That existed. But to truly become something new, who you were has to die. So it's not, of course, not in a literal sense, but you know what I mean, right?
Okay, hold on.
So
Expound on that
that's
because the prior conversation that we had, you said you always bring a part of you wherever you go.
I
So how
said
do you
part of you is
yeah,
no. What I said was that's your foundation, right? Who you
okay.
were, everything that I was before this moment was part of my foundation. Who
But
I
that has
am
to
is
die?
wholly unique. It's dead. It's not. It doesn't just have to die. It's dead. It's gone. It's dead. But did it exist? Absolutely, it existed. Do I remember it? 100%. But
But most
that's
psychologists
no.
would disagree. Freud and Hegel, they would all say that that in your subconscious, you're always a little kid. You're always
I, I think
that
I
kid.
think there's some truth to that for a lot of people, right? Where a lot of people are still basically, no matter how much of an adult they are, you could be in your 20s, 30s, 60s, 70s. There's a wounded child that's still there that they're living from, right? But
Mhm.
there are people who have healed that wounded child, or just completely killed it and said, "Okay, that I'm no longer that child," right? So while I do agree with you that there are a number of people who still live from that wounded child philosophy, there are also a number of people who killed that child a long time ago and moved on from that. That child is still part of their past, it's still part of who they were, still part of their foundation, but they're no longer living from that as part, living from their past in their present.
I understand what you're saying, and I understand in the esoteric of what you're saying, but with and take it with a grain of salt because psychology is psychology, what have you, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
all philosophies that people come up with.
yeah.
But they would all say that you never kill off that child, and you're always. They say you develop your personality by the time you're six, and it's a fixed thing.
Eight, eight. Yeah, but yes,
Okay, we'll go six,
yes,
8. We'll go with that.
yeah. Hmm.
So that part of who you are is so ingrained in you that even if you wanted to kill it off, you couldn't because it's part of your subconscious that you don't even know that you're reenacting things and doing things that happened to you because you were a kid. That your responses to things were things things that happened because of your childhood.
Hmm.
So I don't
Yeah,
know if
as I
if
said,
it's
yeah.
can you even
No,
kill yourself?
as I said before, right? Who you were is a major part of who you are now because of the decisions that you've made based on the experiences that you had, the you know the different things that have come and gone, right? But to truly transform, to truly and authentically become something different, you have to kill off what you were.
Okay. So the answer to the first question is, can you reinvent yourself?
Yes.
Okay. Kristen, same question. What is the cost of reinventing yourself? And can you even reinvent yourself?
Well, again, I've never reinvented myself, so I don't know what the cost is.
Nigga, not you, Kristen. Kristen, we're talking about you as like the general public. God damn, nigga.
How can I even tell? How can I even begin to say, oh, this person is going to have to pay this to give up who they were? I don't have any
From what
idea.
you've seen, from what you've seen,
I don't like your attitude.
I don't like your tone or your
You know
delivery.
what? Go on and reinvent yourself, all right? I I, I I think it would have to be individual, because I think the circumstances in the surrounding environment and those who are in your world make the difference. And because you may be in a world where you are around folks who will allow you to freely reinvent yourself, where they might even encourage it. And then you may be around some sugars that's like, nah, B, you trying to get you. But
And I think you're right, Kristen. I think there's different costs for different people, right? There
yeah.
there there's safety in a past, right? If everyone knows you a certain way and you can stay within that persona, there's safety there. So to reinvent yourself means leaving the relative safety of everyone liking that persona that you've been, and now you're leaving that to become something different, which is a massive unknown. So I think one of the costs of reinvention is the safety of who you were, because you don't have that safety as you change into this new person that you're now becoming. You have to figure out how are people going to accept this new person. Mm-hmm.
The other people, whether they like who you were or not, still it slides into an area for them of their discomfort of your newness. Then you gotta deal, you gotta deal with that. So
So the reason,
I'm big on the price. The price is relative to your current day surroundings, and because sometimes people will literally move away. They have to change environments to reinvent themselves.
that question came from a Mark Twain quote. He said, everything costs something and everyone pays." So that's why I was asking the question, what's the
It's a good
cost?
question. Yeah. Another cost is relationships.
Peace of
Some of
mind.
the
I don't
people
know.
that,
Yeah,
yeah,
relationships. That
yeah,
sounds
relationships is another cost. Yeah.
that sounds
Some
like
people aren't going to follow you.
that probably sounds like the biggest cost right there is relationships. Some people are going to
Mm-hmm.
fall off and some people are going to support.
Mm-hmm.
And some people are going to be right there in the middle where they're still with you, but they keep reminding
Mm-hmm.
you.
And sometimes the most painful part of that is the relationships that stay, but that have now changed. You may have been super close to somebody in this old persona, and now that you've reinvented yourself, that person's still there, but they're not there the way they used to be. It's not as tight, and
Right,
that there's a lingering pain
right,
that just continues there. It's like, wow, we used to be so close, but because of this reinvention, they're there. They're not really there.
Yeah.
right.
So it's
I got a
not.
friend of mine.
Sometimes it's easier just never talk to me again versus it was still there, but it's different, you
That's
know.
not
So
that's not this. Right.
Yeah. I got a
right.
friend of mine who went through her reinvention. And in the process of it, I guess her kids and family members and people around just won't take to it.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you deal with that when you're trying to be something else, regardless of what that something else is?
Mhm.
Personally, I'm not talking about like a physical change. I'm talking about like an emotional, psychological change.
Right.
And the people around you are like, we ain't rocking with it. We like such and such from back in the day. And it's like, what do you do at that point if it's something that close? Like your kids won't even accept what you're trying to become. You can't
That's a
not speak to your
reality. Yeah.
can you not speak to your kids?
No, but I
Or
think you can understand. You can have enough empathy to understand the situation they're in. Right? They've known you a certain way for a certain amount of time. You've made this decision that you're now going to be different. They're not rocking with it. So where do you have the empathy of understanding their position? And can you speak from that place of empathy to now help evolve that relationship, which will take time? So
Was
if the relationship's important enough, you have to invest that time in it to help them along. But first, you have to accept it yourself, right? You can before anyone else can accept the new you. You have to accept the new you, and make sure it's real. Make sure that's truly, authentically who you want to be. And if it is, then you'll spend the time for the people that you love and that you care about, so they can be reintroduced to you and can learn to hopefully learn to fall in love with the person that you are now.
James, that sounds like all the wonderful things that somebody who is emotionally mature would do. But my
Not just
question,
niggas outside.
what happened?
I said, you're exactly right.
Now, but my question is, was that actually a reinvention? Was that an evolution? Or was that just going down a different road? a, si- a
Oh,
single
I
a
think,
single lane highway and you got a double
yeah,
so
I,
everybody couldn't come.
yeah, I think it depends, right? You look at Caitlyn Jenner, right?
Single lane highway,
So not a
double wide bed.
yeah,
Bye, y'all.
exactly right.
I'm going down this road. That's
Yep,
it.
and not everyone can.
That is
Right.
that a
Some people
reinvention?
accepted it.
And she had truck nuts
Right.
attached to the back of the.
Here you go. Here you go. Here you go. Why do you even know
But
that?
I'm
think
sorry.
about
I'm sorry.
And she had
but look,
chocolate.
but that's a great example because of the extremes of that change, right? This was Bruce Jenner, right? This was the
Edie.
decathlon, Mr. Wheaties
Mhm.
box, right?
Mhm.
That's how I knew him, right? He was on the Wheaties box, that was a person that we all of us at that of that generation looked up to, and he made this decision. Now, for me, it was no big deal. It's like, okay, do your life, do whatever you want to do. For his children, and that's what I was watching, and his wife, how was that going to go, right? What was the acceptance going to be there, right? And his kids, it seemed that they kind of followed along and wanted him what's best for him and all that other stuff, but he lost his relationship, right? He's no longer married as a result.
So
So
let me ask you
so
something, James.
and really quick, and
Mhm.
a lot of his fans no longer rock with him that way. The people who looked at him as a symbol of masculinity
Well, he did what you
suddenly
said. He
was
killed him. He
yeah,
killed Bruce.
but he
It killed
yeah,
Bruce.
Bruce doesn't exist anymore. There's no Bruce. There's Caitlyn. Caitlyn's what's there. And some people are like, oh, such an inspiration. And some people went along with it. Other people was like, I'm done. And that's the reality of reinvention. Not everyone's going to accept it, but can you accept it, right? You as the person who is reinventing. If you're not accepting it, no one else certainly is. And you have to live with the consequences and the benefits of that reinvention. So it better be authentic. If it's just for a Hollywood view, if it's just to sell more books or whatever, that's a big cost that you're going to have sometimes to do that.
See
So let
now.
me ask you this, James. Hold up. Let me ask James something really
Okay.
quickly because I just thought about this and I don't want to lose the
Uh-oh.
thought. So you talked about reinvention from the personal side, but you were
Yeah.
also witness to a reinvention on the other side. Our father became Muslim, changed his
Yep.
whole name,
Yep.
uh, and I don't want to say essentially became a different person because I didn't know the before when he was Mr. Legrand. I knew him as Mr.
Yeah.
Majid.
Yeah.
So you being a witness to that,
Yeah.
how is it like being on the other side, watching someone reinvent themselves in front of your eyes?
There's consequences, right? Relationships changed, and a lot of things changed. So I was very much a baby at the time that he made the decision to embrace Islam and to move away. He then moved to another country to really learn Islam, and then when he came back as someone that was very different. And for the elders in my family, right? You mean because Ab and I have different moms but the same dad. For the elders on my mom's side, there was a lot of turmoil there, right? Just a lot of non-acceptance, right? But the more time I got to spend with dad, which in a lot of ways was a reintroduction. It was like, wow, this guy's incredible, right? He's super smart. He's quiet, but whenever he speaks, what he says it holds so much meaning. You'll think about it for weeks. And I just really enjoyed that part of him. And to this day, just we're as you know, Ab, we're all very close. But to this day, there are still other people in our family that don't accept his transformation. They don't accept his reinvention. But he went through a reinvention that cost relationships. It cost time. It cost a lot. It cost a lot of you know personal capital, right? In the minds of people who had a high respect for him, that respect got reduced or eliminated for them when he made this change. But by making this change, he also increased his respect in other ways. He's considered a religious scholar. He's just one of the most thoughtful, philosophical, analytical people you'll ever meet.
Wow.
So while he lost some people, he gained some people as well. And at the end of the day, he's highly comfortable with where he is and who he is. So you're right. I was on the other side where I lost my dad for a while. For a while there, my dad wasn't there. He was gone. But at the moment that I needed him as a teenager, he showed back up. And boy, did he show back up.
Have you ever been on that opposite side of reinvention, Kristen? Have you ever been the voyeur as opposed to the principal?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head now. And even if someone made a change, I try to let people live. I do. I really do. I really try to let people live. If you like it, I love it. If it's something that I can't rock with, I will just bow out gracefully. I mean, I've definitely had friendships that have drifted, and I don't know if that was necessarily that wasn't yeah, it wasn't necessarily a reinvention, but it was more like two individuals evolving in different directions. And it was almost like a discovery of, oh, I thought that we both shared this value. Clearly we don't. With certain things as they would come up in life that could never have possibly come up prior to then and there. As you start to you leave college. I'll give you an example. High school friends who you know what? Okay, I'm sorry. As I'm saying this is me on the change side. Some of the things that we laugh and joke about in high school and did in high school, I remember by senior year, one friend, she drank a lot. And I just kind of felt like you still drinking a lot? Like you still doing that? So technically I guess evolved or to her got new, but she was drinking a lot, and I just felt like, come on, like at this point, this something else. So, and then get into college, and you start doing certain things, and everybody's kind of wild, but then there's those who kind of go a little bit too far for me, and then it's just like, really, you're getting down like that? Then you leave college, and then there's certain things where it's like, okay, we're all adults now, and it's just like, um, little simple things too. For example, maybe in college we all drank, got tipsy, got drunk, whatever. But then after college, it was like, just because we have all this liquor here, we don't have to finish it. So I got, you know what I mean? I guess I got new because I'm like, we don't have to finish the liquor. We can just sip on it and stop. So I look at it as just evolving, not necessarily reinvention, but other people, our people will be like, oh, you this. Like,
I knew a girl in high school who went from cheerleader to stripper to Muslim, back to stripper to something in the middle.
a stripper.
And yeah, stripper most, yeah, she slid around the pole with a with with a hijab on. Yeah, that's exactly
Oh,
what.
the visual on that.
Yeah.
So is that reinvention, or is that different aspects of this individual surfacing and then going
So
dormant
I'm
temporarily and then surfacing?
so I'm going. The reason I brought her up, I'm not saying her name, but not to out her, is because when I was old enough, found out the backstory. It had to do with her family and how she was just from running from whatever her circumstances were. And then reading this Karrine story, the fact that she starts off the book with "I hate my mother," and it goes on to detail all the things she hated about her mother, and
Yeah.
then it came to look like she even emulated parts of her mother by dating other people's men and being
Yeah.
beautiful and this, that, and the third.
Mhm.
Is reinventing running? That's the question. Is reinventing running? Because it
I,
seems from her from the point of Karrine Steffan,
oh,
and
Corinne?
then you can from Karrine, let's start with Karrine and then move it
Mhm.
to something personal. But from her reinvention, was her reinvention just running from the things that she hated? I mean, she gave herself a new name at 16 and then move on to is reinvention running the the macro.
Yeah. What I would say about her is when she gave herself that new name at 16, I don't think she had reinvented herself yet. I think she was, giving herself an alter ego that was stronger than who she was. It was kind of like what Kristen J said. It was an aspect of her personality she wanted to highlight more than others. She wanted to bring that as higher so she can get past a childhood trauma, right? To get through the traumatic part of her life. So at that point, I don't think she reinvented. I think she was coping and trying to figure out the best way to be strong enough to get past that situation. Now, to your question, I'm going to get to your question though. Let's advance forward all these years. She goes from superhead to housewife, or this house,
Mhm.
home goods person, right?
Mhm.
She's trying to reinvent. She's trying to reinvent herself. Um, I can't speak to whether or not she's really running at this point, or if she's authentically made that change. She does occur to me to be a person that is not ashamed of what she's done. She's been 100%, whatever she was doing, she did it 100%, right? From the Vixen days, video Vixen days, to the Superhead days, to the porn that she did, to giving blowjob lessons. She had a whole business giving lessons
Well,
to housewives on doing blowjobs, right?
mhm.
Doing all the she whatever she was doing, she did it 100%. Now there's been some. I haven't been following her story, so I don't know what's happened since then till now. But I imagine that right now, at least just my impression of her, if this is what she's selling right now, this is probably who she authentically is right now. I don't think she's a person that runs. I think she's a person that just says, "All right, this is who I am, and this is how I want to, show myself to the world. And at the end of the day, I gotta pay bills and pay taxes and do those things. How can I do that while being the person that I am today?" And then she's made a different choice in
Yeah,
terms of who that is.
maybe she's just tired, doing all that stuff. I'm sure can wear somebody out. Maybe. I don't know.
Where a lot of things out.
Yeah.
But also, she's got. I think she had one child already. I don't know if she
Mhm.
has more, but
Mhm.
Does she,
being a
does she have any
parent changes. What's that?
I was saying, Abdul, does she have any more kids?
I don't believe so. I believe at one point she was implying that she was pregnant and then it went away. And no one really ever asked what the situation was. To give a little pushback, I've watched her throughout the years on many different programs, interviews, what have you. And this is not an indictment of her at who she is now, but from what I saw,
Mhm.
she was a person who could become a chameleon. She just morphed into whatever the moment was. She
Mhm.
was openly bragging on a Wendy Williams show about her past or what have you. But if she goes on Oprah, she takes the opposite side of it, like stuff is wrong. These guys are using me. And then when she went
Mhm.
on something else, so she morphs into. I've seen this person morph into whatever the popular thing was or whatever the acceptable thing was. And maybe that's part of the reinvention. Maybe that's part of the whole evolution that it's maybe she thought it was good at the beginning and then didn't think it was, and now it's something else, and now she's someone else. So there's no shade to her or who she is. And this, by the way, if she ever hears this commentary or this program, it has nothing to do with her specifically. We just want to use her as an example of the idea of reinvention and the possibilities of reinvention. With that
One
being said,
comment on that, because I like what you said about the chameleon, because I think that is a legitimate takeaway here, right? That some people can do that, right? Some people have the ability to play to an audience on command, right? I'd like to offer just an alternative to that, to say that there are some people who, at moments, will own what they are, and at other moments, they'll feel the victimhood of who they are, right? So,
explain
unfortunately,
that.
So let me explain that. Hollywood on its own, forget sex for a minute. Hollywood has a lot of exploitation, right? It just
Mhm.
does, and that exploitation can lead to success, right? If you allow yourself to be exploited to the right people, it can lead to success. So now you feel the strength of, here's where I am, look at me. But then you also feel the pain of, but look what I had to give up to get here, right? The exploitation side, the victim. right? So depending on where she was, again, just an alternative. We're not going to know, right? We're not in her mind. We don't know where she was. It could absolutely be the chameleon nature of a person who is highly manipulative and just trying to make money by speaking to different audiences in a different way. It could also be the person that, in one circumstance, feels truly empowered, and in another circumstance, feels the victimhood of what she's gone through. So it's just an alternative thing to throw out there, that there are real psychological consequences to how we live sometimes.
Before we get into the lessons, Kristen, do you have any final thoughts about this topic pertaining to her and pertaining to any of the questions that we might have missed or that you were thinking about?
No questions, but I do think that there's a fine line between reinvention and evolution. I think she is focusing on another part of herself. I don't feel like she necessarily, because remember, I look at reinvention differently. Um, this whole interior design piece, Zen thing is something completely different from what she was known as. So I think reinvention to me again is like Madonna, who's like, I'm gonna come out as this musician now, and I'm gonna, switch it up, but I'm still a musician. Or Robert Downey Jr., saying it again, how he's like, I'm gonna do my thing that I'm known for and what I'm passionate about. She put her superhead days to the side and stepped away from that. So there's no re in there.
You saw her socials. Would you say that you saw her social media page, the stuff that I've shared?
Yes.
Don't you think that the videos that are put out and the commentary and the comments that are in her social media page are purposely crafted?
I don't know, but it's interesting that you say that, because I did read some of the comments on one of her posts, and people were very forgiving and gentle and kind and loving. And I don't know, maybe that's just maybe the people um who knew and remember clearly the superhead moment are not phased by who she is and what she's doing now. And the people that she has drawn to her in this new space are more supportive. Maybe she was successful at just, transitioning, stepping over to the side, taking a left,
I
going
think
down
the
the.
times have something to do with it too. When you have the slut walks and you have the uh uh what do they refer to it as?
So you're saying what I said before, that so much has gone on these days that
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
just
yeah,
to a lot of things. So,
yeah,
and it's women now are just like, oh, my sexuality, I'm this, and blah, blah, blah.
yeah.
So I don't know,
Interesting.
but I think everyone should be mindful of who they dance with, period. So I'm just gonna put that out there. General Nana, channeling Nana. Just baby, think about what you're doing and who you're
Hmm.
doing it with. And don't do everybody. I really feel that way. I don't think people need to just be out here all wild and crazy. I really don't. I mean, I
You,
mean, sex is natural. It's, human nature. It's gonna get, if you're lucky, you're gonna get some. So, but
I
just
thought
be.
you were about to rap George Michael. Sex is natural, sex is good. Not everybody does it, but everybody should. Can you do your old grandma voice again? Can you go back into your old
No,
grandma slave
no,
voice
F
again?
you.
I'm with Ab. I was digging the grandma voice too. I was digging the grandma
Nana,
voice.
Nana telling people go on get you some, but
Yeah.
don't be
Go
crazy
and
with
get
it.
you
Don't be
some.
nasty, baby. Don't get
That's it. I was
don't
waiting
be
for you to add the
nasty.
baby.
Don't be
Yeah.
nasty. Boys and
Don't
girls.
be nasty,
Y'all
baby.
don't be nasty.
Out here smelling buttholes. Yeah.
Nobody need to know the color. That's your business.
Yeah.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
James, what is the lesson you got from this story?
I'll give three. All right. So first one is the allure of fame. Fame, and I'm not knocking fame in any way. If that's your goal, go get it, right? No issue. Just understand that everything you do is under a spotlight when you're famous. So it makes things a little bit harder. You deal with the judgment of not just the people that you're working with and working for, but an audience that's watching. And that audience is watching through tabloids, through social media, not just the movies, TV, radio, whatever you do, or albums that you're doing. they're really watching everything. So fame complicates things. So again, there's allure with fame and there's pitfalls with fame. So just keep that in mind. If you choose to be famous for any reason, it's going to be there's a factor of 100 in terms of the amount of attention and other people's opinions you're going to have to deal with. So, and especially when you're talking about something like sex that gets everyone's interest. So it's an important one just to keep in mind. Number two, and this is for the everyday person, own your past. Own it. You can't change it. Own your past. Just own it. So stop running from it. Stop thinking it didn't exist. Stop trying to change how it occurred in people's minds. What happened, happened. You can't change it. But what did you learn from it that you can apply to today and going forward that will advance your life? So own your past and use it as material that you can learn from and become what you choose to become in this moment and the next. And then the third thing I would say is there is power in transformation and redemption. So if you're a person who's had a very rocky past, before you can truly reinvent yourself, which is our topic, you have to forgive yourself too. Forgive yourself for the things you did that you aren't as proud of. Forgive yourself for not knowing any better. Forgive yourself for the things you knowingly did it while you were doing it, but now realize I should not have done that, right? So sometimes we make mistakes. Sometimes we do things on purpose that we later realize I shouldn't have done that. And there's regret there. Forgive yourself, own your past, and then move forward into your change. Whatever that transformation is going to be for you, own that too. And understand that some people are going to come along easily. There'll be some new people on the other side of that as well. But there will be some people that may not come along. And in some cases, you're going to have to let those people go. So just understand that if you're truly committed to the new person that you're going to become, you're going to lose some things. There's a cost to that. And that cost is real.
Wow. Did we just go to church?
I know, right? Preach. By the way,
Like
I'm
I
gonna
got swallowed up.
by the way, I'm gonna edit James saying own your past, and then you going, be nasty, baby. And I'm gonna just put that shit on a loop. So, Kristen, what's the lesson you learned from this?
So wait, I thought I already gave the lesson, but I do believe, the lesson that I learned, did I? Just don't be out there with everybody. But I don't think I answered the other part though about can you reinvent yourself? Yeah, I do think you can reinvent yourself. I do. And yeah, I think you can. And if you choose to do it, go for it.
That was quick and to the point.
Yeah, that's usually how I roll.
Tell me about it. So I guess my
What did
lesson.
you learn? What did you learn? And what do you think?
What
we're
I
out of
learned.
time. Good night, everybody.
Thank you. God bless you. Good night.
You've been beautiful. I love you, New York.
I don't believe people can reinvent themselves. I believe there's that quote that says, "Wherever you go, that's where you are." I
Right.
believe you're a piece of shit until you're not. Whatever
Oh.
whatever wherever the space that you start from and you move to next, you're just one of those two things. You're just jostling back and forth between different spaces or different places of being. So I don't believe anyone should even attempt to reinvent themselves. Just wherever you are, just be who you want to be in that space. I can see the allure and the pressure of people wanting to reinvent themselves to be something for money or fame or an industry, especially in a world where everything's getting so uniformed. Even the appearances of people with surgeries and what have you, and clothing and makeup, everyone, even the weaves and things like that, people are starting to look similar. I think you're better off being whoever the best version of yourself is, as opposed to whoever the best version of whatever other people think you should be.
And I have a question on what you were just talking about.
Yes.
Is it now, are we only looking at it in terms of this tainted past that everyone shuns versus this new whole life? Or somebody who may have been a school teacher for 30 years and then decided, I always loved making pottery. Now I'm a, what is it called? A potus? What is it? Somebody who makes pots.
I
A
don't know,
pot maker.
Yeah.
sculptor. I don't
Oh,
know.
that's a nice artistic. Well, we'll go with that instead because it makes this just sounds better. But somebody who may have been a school teacher for 30 years and they're like, you know what? I've always had this like low-key subtle passion for art and I want to sculpt and now I'm gonna do that. So are they reinventing themselves or did
I
they?
I don't know. What made me originally think of this conversation was two people. First, it started with Karrine Steffans, and then as I was looking up this thing, a new article popped up about Rachel Dolezal.
Oh God,
Who
that's another show.
I'm just saying, but that's a reinvention.
I heard
That is
another show. Now,
absolutely.
that's a mess, is what that is.
But
Rachel, I
she
hope
not.
you heard me. I judge.
But she went from being a young white girl to being representing herself as a black woman NAACP to
Yeah,
then now
there's no re in that.
I, I don't know. Hold on. She's the same person. She kept the name Rachel Dolezal. She just wanted to be black. We talk. How is there not a re if we just spoke about Bruce Jenner and his reinvention?
I
What
didn't
makes
say
her rein?
he reinvented
What
himself.
makes
I said that's a totally switch. That's a total switch for me. You went from a man to a woman. That's no reinvention.
that's not? Would you wouldn't consider that a reinvention?
No, if Bruce Jenner came out and did something else with sports or something like that, to me, that's a reinvention because he was an athlete. And if he re to me falls under repeat or renew or redo, like of something the same.
That's not the definition that we went with for this
I'm
conversation.
sorry you're breaking up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crank caller,
But I
crank
think it's
caller.
I got low bars.
but but I think it's an important point that for each person, we may define that word reinvention differently, right? The three of us have three different definitions of it, even though we're trying to work from the same definition for purposes of the show. So I think that's an important thing to take away as well. One person's reinvention is another person's evolution is another person's chameleon. It depends on how you see it and the impact it has on you versus how other people see you.
Right, right. Okay.
So James, I know we got to put the close out pretty soon, but would you consider Rachel Dolezal a reinvention?
No, she
What would you
she
call
all
that?
she knew she was consistent. She was
But
consistent in
she
who
changed her
she
name.
was. That,
She changed her name and a
but
profession
no, you mean after this whole
after.
thing?
She went
No,
from
I
a
didn't
white
know
she
that.
went from a white woman to
Okay,
white Rachel Dolezal to
right.
Diala something something like an African name she has.
Okay, yeah. But I don't know that that was a reinvention. I think she changed her circumstances to fit who she wanted to be and how she wanted to be accepted. But she was always aligned with Black culture. That was something that was just consistent with her. She may have changed her name and done some of those other things, but who she was at her core and what her highest value was stayed consistent. I don't know. It's a good question. And again, we're all going to see that a little differently. And I think that's okay. The real
Mhm.
question is for the change that we as individuals, each of the three of us and everyone listening, for the change that I choose to make next, for me, is that a reinvention or not? And if it is, what's it going to cost me? What do I have to do to get there? And am I going to be able to bring people along with me? Or am I going to lose some people in this process that I care about? And is it worth it?
Robert Downey Jr. went from junkie to Iron Man.
Yeah.
That's
But he was an
But
actor
look at
the whole time.
say it again. He was what?
He was an actor the whole time. He was an actor before he
He
was a junkie. He was an actor during his junkie days, and then he was an actor after.
Yeah, he lost a lot of trust in Hollywood during his junkie days. He disappeared for a bit, and he came back. And what was that? I don't know if this is the right order,
Black
but
and white.
say
no,
again.
Wasn't that the movie he was in with Mike Tyson? Black and white.
yeah, and I believe his disappearance was called prison. He did like 4 or 5 years in prison.
Mm, mm. But I remember seeing him in Tropic Thunder, and he was really funny there.
Funny,
He was a dude playing the dude disguised as a dude, right? That was pretty
a
funny.
brother.
And then
Bruce
and then
Jenner,
Sherlock. I'm sorry.
nothing.
Don't.
Keep going. Just keep going. Just keep going. Just keep going. Just keep
This
going.
dude,
Just
right?
keep
Yell out.
going.
Oh, yell out stuff.
Shout out name chicken. Yeah, I'm just start yelling out shit. Anyway,
Rachel.
But I remember seeing him in Sherlock Holmes, and I thought that was those two movies were good as well. I'm sure he did a bunch of other movies during that time, but I remember distinctly those because it really just showed, different level of acting, right? I mean, just the all the different accents and hell, he was a whole different race in the movie, and then
Right.
Sherlock Holmes with the accent, playing an iconic, hero in literature and in movies. It was great. So when he came in as Iron Man, and you see him again, and it's like, wow, look at him, and being Tony Stark and really embracing that. And look at the decade that he had just doing that. I mean, just pretty incredible. And we talk about reinvention. I mean, that's a classic example. No one thinks about who he was, during his junkie days anymore. I remember that, but I still, when every time Iron Man comes on, I drop the remote. It's one of the Marvel movies comes on and he's in it. I drop the remote. I'm stopping right there. So that was success for him.
Kristen, and then I'll close it after this. Just a quick question, because I think you probably would have a really good. We could probably think about this. Can you name me a positive public Black reinvention that was accepted?
Oh, that's a good.
I'm thinking, and I'll give you my examples because they all didn't seem well or they weren't accepted well. Al Sharpton was one of them. Mace was one of them.
You don't need me. You got it.
No, I don't think they, but I don't think they were positive or accepted. Some point. I'm asking you, can you think of one that was accepted and positive? Because I can't think of one. We name Robbie Downey Jr. I could probably name Martha Stewart. I could name probably a couple white ones. I really can't
I
think
can
of a
give,
couple any black ones.
I can give you one that's happening right in front of our face right now. Andre
Suge Knight.
3000. No.
Okay.
Andre
Where
3000.
it
So
wasn't
we
even
all,
where it wasn't something negative first, and it's just something
nothing
different,
negative.
but
Yeah, just something different. So
it's
Andre
getting
3000
loud though.
from
My gosh.
yeah, so Andre 3000, right, from Outkast in Atlanta, right? I remember the image I always have of him was when he was in some video or something. He was wearing shoulder pads and a tutu, right?
Yeah.
That's how he was just this wild boy, just out there, just
Wow.
doing what he was doing, but inventing this great music. Now he's a flutist. He has these wooden flutes, and he plays beautifully. Like, yeah, he plays
It's like that.
beautifully.
No.
No, dude, no. On the real, I forget what nighttime show he was on. He was on one of the night shows, and they interviewed him, and his whole demeanor was different. Like everything about him was different. He had found, I don't know if I want to call it spirituality, but there is something inherently different about who he is today than what he was before. And then he played 10 minutes, a 10-minute set with different wooden flutes with a band that was behind him. And I say band, but that's not the right word. They were following him in this great music. It was incredible. And I encourage everyone to watch that. It's on YouTube. Just put in Andre 3000 and flute and just listen to that and tell me you don't see a difference in who he is from who he was. We're watching it real time with him, a transition that's happening, a transformation. And I'm curious to see, are we going to, because he has a whole album on this flute, are we going to accept him as this person, this personality that he's become, the instruments that he's choosing, versus who he was, the hip hop artist that had all those bangers, Mr. Hey Now, right?
Mhm.
Hey Now. Now he's playing the flute and playing this amazing, soulful, soulful's not even the right word. Just it felt spiritual to me. So we're watching a real-time transition of a Black artist, not just in his medium of music, but in the personality that he is.
Mhm.
I'm curious to see if that's accepted.
Can I tell you why you were saying that? I actually thought of one. And then after thinking about it, I was like, yeah, some of it bothers me. Mike Tyson.
Mhm.
Mike
Oh
Tyson, I
yeah.
think, is a prime example of a reinvention. The thing that bothered me about Mike Tyson, and this may come off wrong, white people don't have the same fear of him that they used to. So they approach him very disrespectfully. And because he's this new guy or this reinvented guy, he greets them with peace and kindness and love and what have you. And sometimes I think he should just punch him out the shoes, like he just hit him. Because I remember watching him a video of him on a plane, and this kid wouldn't leave him alone. He kept putting his arm on him and touching him, and I'm like, you would have never done that to old Mike Tyson. But they got too comfortable. Like they got really comfortable. And sometimes when certain facets of society get real comfortable, they also get real disrespectful. So, but
That's
Mike
true.
Tyson,
And
Mike
and
Tyson,
and that's a cost for Mike, right? There's a
yeah,
cost of, he had a protective wall around him called fear,
yeah,
right? People feared him, so they were very careful about how they dealt with him. Now he's done a lot to rehabilitate his image, right? His one man show, for example, and
mhm,
things like that. I mean, he really put himself out there. He has transformed, but now that fear has lessened, and people feel more
mhm.
comfortable with him, and they want to get closer to him. And now he's dealing with an invasion of personal space that he never had to deal with before. That's a cost.
Anything, Kristen?
No, I gotta really
Well, that
think about
was this episode of
living for that moment. Oh my gosh.
yeah. So, Chris, anything, Kristen? Seriously, final thoughts?
Nah, no final thoughts. Just everybody try to be true to yourself. That's it.
All right.
That's the best advice right there.
That it's not easy to do that though. It's really not, because you got to
No.
really honestly get to know yourself. And I mean, all those little childhood experiences that you mentioned, they sit there dormant, picking and choosing when they want to surface. And it'll be at the damnedest time that you find yourself going off at the checkout girl in CVS because she didn't ring you up fast enough, and you don't know that this had something to do with your mother not watching TV late when you were 7.
You
So
know what else though, Kristen? That when you're true to yourself and people criticize it, you feel it deeper because they're criticizing who you are, not who they think you are. Now it's real. Now you're hitting the nerve,
and
right? I'm being true to
here with
myself.
you here with 2 Capricorns. No. I can
So
speak
now
for Abdul when I say nah, that's not us.
but you know what? For a lot of people, right? That's the fear. That's why people don't. That's why people aren't
Aren't
authentic,
true to themselves,
right?
right?
When you're authentic, it's like a raw nerve out there. You're just waiting for someone to pluck it, and
Yeah.
people will pluck it, right? People love to see other people in pain. So to be truly authentic, there's a strength that you end up developing as a result of that, because you have to, just out of survival. So again, so when you make a true transformation, an authentic reinvention, and the world is watching, there's a different level of strength you need for that.
Yeah. I truly feel for those who are not able to live truly as themselves.
Shakespeare said it best: "To thine own self be true."
Hey, quoting some of everybody, but
That was King Claudius and Hamlet. If anyone needs to
you ain't got
know,
no brothers. You ain't got no brothers quotes. Reggie from Day Street.
Kicking the door, waving the 4-4.
yeah.
All you heard was
Yeah,
Papa,
Papa, don't hit me
no
no more. How about that? That's a reinvention. That's a reinvention.
Speaking of reinvention, I used to be scared of the D. Now I
Yes.
had to
Did you?
handle it like a real bitch.
Yeah. That is absolutely a good. That is a very good reinvention.
High five.
Used to be.
This has been another episode of Ignorance is Contagious podcast. Please like, share, subscribe. All of our socials: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, what have you. Until next time, we're out.
Good night.
Like a real bitch.
The Rock is in the building.